Good morning, afternoon, or good evening. This is episode 50-something of the Let's Talk Game podcast. We're not 60 yet, that's all we know. We're all back this week. Look, 3 people, 3 humans. Been an interesting couple of weeks where we've just had some off-the-wall chats. This week's going to be no different because I can't be bothered to structure an episode properly. I'd imagine we're going to get into some conversations around how annoying Sony is still being for some reason. And a couple of bits of industry news going on, but mainly just have a bit of a catch-up, guys, because, yeah, you boys have been busy boys, and the 3 of us are back in one place. So, first off, Chunt, how was your trip?
Not long enough. I would move there tomorrow, buy a plot of land an hour away, massive 10-foot fence around the whole 10 acres or something, and, you know, that'd be fantastic. But long story
basically,
short,
your Animal Crossing island, yeah.
Yeah, pretty much, yeah. Yeah, that was good. It's just, I'm finding it difficult to reacclimatize to everyday life. It's only been 4 days, but I'm here. Yeah, that's my story.
You have arrived. Dan, you're obviously back again. You still there? We should look a bit more colourful this week. We were talking about how me and you looked a bit like we'd been uncolour graded last week, but we've realised what that problem is. So, like, your chair's red, your shirt's blue, your face is flushed. And your hair is Brendan Fraser, as Chunt alluded to before we push record.
Yes. Mummy returns
That's
here.
a good look. Happy with
it.
Right, well, we've spent about 40 minutes just knobbing about before we push record, so let's not pretend like we haven't spoke to each other for the last half an hour and get into the topics as usual. First is, what have we been playing? Dan, I'll let you start this week. Usually let Chunt start, but you can kick us off. What have you been playing with your thumbs?
Well, I only got a couple hours of 2K in last night, which has been good. I haven't played 2K in like 3 weeks, so I was quite happy that, you know, to just have a little game last night. But this week's all been about like adulting stuff. Today we literally went blind shopping. You know, hard to see. But you know, I downloaded Oddworld's Odyssey, so I'm going to give that a little bit of go. As I was saying to you guys during the week in our chat, that I played Oddworld probably when I was 8 to 10. I can't even remember which game it was. I remember liking it, but I never followed the series after that. When a new one came out, I went, I remember playing a game like that, and then I just totally ignored it. But this was free with PlayStation Plus on. I have a PlayStation 5, so I was like, well, I'll download. It's mostly puzzles and platforming, I'm pretty sure, but we'll give it a go. But yeah, as in terms of what I have been playing, just a couple of hours of 2K last night, and that's been about it. No Age of Empires this week, unfortunately.
Kept your Empires unaged. John, what have you played?
Oh, look, Dan, that's awfully big of you to be playing a PC game. I know it must be a new experience for you, and I'm proud of you for doing it. So that's good.
New Age.
Age of Empires. Yes, indeed. But yeah, look, I've been playing just odds and ends, man. Like Minecraft Dungeons, I started playing via remote play while I was away. And I was enjoying it a lot until last night. The difficulty spike just went through the roof in the last level when you're going to fight the Illager dude, the main king or whatever his stupid name is. I kept dying on it. I'm like, this is not a kid's game. If I was a kid playing this, I don't know how I'd be doing it. Like, I'm a 35-year-old man and I'm getting owned in this game. And I'll be damned if I'm going to go back to the other levels to try and get better shit. I wanted just a relaxing time through this Minecraft Dungeons. It couldn't be too difficult, I told myself. And it wasn't until then. So I just instantly deleted it out of frustration. I uninstalled that bastard so fast. But I was enjoying it for the most time. And then I jumped straight in the Day of the Tentacle, a classic back in the day. Really, really loved that game. And it was just a good one just to stroll back through memory lane, and really, really forgot a lot about that game. I had to check out some walkthrough videos to figure out the hell I'm supposed to do. But it was a good run, good laughs, and it really calmed me down. So it's a mixture there. But yeah, most of the time, man, all I played was Gears remotely away and Minecraft Dungeons, just odd stuff. So yeah, I'm looking forward to playing more narrative based stuff. So that's why I was asking you guys about Man of Medan, and I installed the Back to the Future Telltale games because Jamie, you're talking about the Batman one recently, so I put that on there. I haven't played that yet, so just smaller games. I'm not ready to go back into Yakuza yet in another 30 hours or whatever. So good times.
Well, I've played video games too, just some. I started Borderlands 3 on Xbox because I managed to get it for like £8. I bought physical games, which is something that I obviously don't do, but deals like that were just outrageous. Like, and I managed to grab Cyberpunk for like $24.99 or something like that, and it's like I'm very pleased that I refunded the $60 that I spent on it when it came out, but it's just literally sat ready to be a key for whenever the what do you call it, unlocks the PS5 and Series X variant. I played some Minecraft Dungeons myself. I went back to it, I was like, I've got a save in this. Let's see what Chunt's talking about. I was like, it's just no, I know I haven't got to the end boss as you're saying, but I was just walking to go, this is basically a walking simulator. Like there's no challenge to it. So I was like, right, let's duck out of that a bit. Yeah, played a bit more Borderlands. I haven't actually been back to Outriders this week, which I know I said to Dan last week. I wanted to kind of finish the expeditions and leave it, and I'd kind of finished my time with it. But there's been a lot of stuff going on in that game with save file glitches and inventory clears, which I was like, I'll just let them iron that out, which it looks like they now have. So I'll maybe try and get back to that this weekend. I did manage to get to Life is Strange Before the Storm. I think I've got about half a chapter left of that. I got rudely interrupted by being a dad, so I didn't get to finish that when I intended to. But other than that, it's been a pretty quiet games week for me. Not really had that that desire to go to play something. I was saying to you guys about wanting to finally get to Ghost of Tsushima last night, because it's like I think I'm ready for that type of an experience. That's a bit more in depth and narrative focused rather than just running around and looting shit and making all my gear purple. I know that there is elements of that in Ghost, but not in the story. So Dan, we will eventually get to Legends, eventually, and this is the time of the year to do it, because I know we keep saying all the time zones have changed and it's messing up our kind of coordination with one another, but it's actually better for playing games together. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like, it was this time of year when Chunt, you and I play a lot of Gears and stuff together, because it's like when we finish doing these podcasts, it's like 9, 10 in the evening for you guys, and it's only like lunchtime for me. So it's like, we can get some time in on the video games over a weekend. But
yeah,
that's what we've been playing then, boys. We've got a lot of Sony stuff to talk about because they're still being Sony, as I alluded to at the top. But I had a couple of things just written down that's kind of happened this week, so let's just checkbox those off pretty quick. First thing, we were going to actually dust this from the topic sheet because like none of us are really that interested, but BioShock 4 is apparently happening and going open world. So for any BioShock fans out there, I suppose that's going to be a different experience. You can see kind of how the world building of the previous games leads to it probably fitting quite nicely in an open world. But do you guys have any kind of passing opinion on that? Chunt, I know you said played the first one. I played the first one years and years and years ago. I didn't finish it, and I've never really dove back in.
Yeah, look, just briefly on that, I'm disappointed to hear that, only because I think BioShock lends better when it's a linear narrative experience like the first one was. Like, I only played a demo of the first one, but everyone that I know that's played it is always like, man, you got to play it, Chunt. You really, really enjoy it. And I'm like, yeah, okay. It's just one of the many games that everybody says I should play. But everyone says it's very, very good, and there's a lot in it. And even BioShock Infinite, it's its own kind of thing that you just get through. And it's just going to be another game that's open world. You're not going to have a focused story to tell. Like, it's just going to be open-ended. I'm kind of over that kind of stuff, to be real. This isn't going to affect me anyway, so I have no intention of playing it. But it's just another game, another notable name that's doing that. Which is why I'm going back and buying all these old games and smaller games, just so I can finish something, and be done. Not have to perpetually play something and never get satisfied, Anyway, that's my initial feelings on what you just said.
Yeah,
Awesome. Dan,
mine
do you have
were
anything to add?
when I heard about it being open world, I was thinking that BioShock is always known specifically bringing it into mainstream was the like environmental storytelling, like the idea that you'd go around, you'd find tapes and you'd find out more about what was happening through picking up stuff, which obviously happens in a lot of stuff these days now. And I just wonder how they're going to focus their narrative towards that, knowing how those games do play. Another thing, which was probably a bigger conversation, but I think there's a conversation to be had about, you know, I understood why a lot of games started going more open world, probably, you know, 8 years ago, because they were trying to get people to hold on to games longer and not trade them in, etc. But as the world goes more digital and you can't trade those games in or get rid of them, there's less reason to try and get people to stay in the game a longer period of time, because you're not worrying about them selling them back. Like if you're getting them digitally, they've got the game. So I wonder if this might be kind of the last hurrah to someone like BioShock, who's obviously been working on this game for a while. I'm curious as to if more people keep going open world or some start to bring it back a little bit, but that's another conversation.
God, I hope you're right.
I'm never usually right in this. It's more like I wish this happens.
That's the first thing I said. I don't have anything further to add to the BioShock stuff because it's not something I really care too much about. The Nintendo Indie World event happened very recently. Chunt, you caught the TLDR of that. What did Nintendo have to talk to us about?
I watched it, and it happened. Nothing really caught my attention. like a lot of indies kind of don't really do. There was Ollie World, which I thought was pretty cool. Yeah. The art style was like, oh, that's interesting, and just it looks like a fun kind of skating cartoon game. But there are some pretty neat RPGs. There's one in there, Jamie. I can't remember the name of it, but you would like it. I think it might be up in your alley. There's a cool RPG that they noted. It's just it was there and now it's gone. Anyway, but otherwise, it's just smaller games if you're interested. Oh, wait up. There's one game. Oh my God, it's interesting. I forgot the name of it, but I'll describe it to you. It takes place in real time over 400 days. And you're playing this little, like, coal-looking dude. It looks like Mr. Burns, but he's been walking through a mine.
It looks like he's dead.
Yeah. And you're just walking around this castle awaiting the resurrection of your king, and you're just doing stuff, like mining stuff or catering to the castle and whatever. And there's a real-time counter at the top of the screen for 400 days. I was like, holy crap, like what happens like along the way? What if it's just something that you're supposed to get in those 400 days, and what happens if you don't have it at the end? Are you supposed to do it all over again, or can you rewind time, or what? Just the concept alone was like, well, damn, no one's really done that as far as I understand. There's an actual real-time counter. It's not like game time where it's sped up or anything. But that was the most fascinating one of the whole presentation to me. That really stood out. The rest of them are your usual affair, just kind of re-releases of older titles that are coming back, or sequels for Oxenfree 2 or whatever, just that kind of stuff. So I'm not really interested too much in it, but I was hoping for a bit more of something that spoke to me during the presentation, but otherwise I was like, yeah, cool.
A couple of games at the beginning. One was like Road 96 or something, where it was just a choose your own adventure, and it seems very diverse in terms of where what can happen. And I was like, that looks interesting. There was an Annapurna game in there, once again about narrative, which was interesting. Something I found interesting was Konami just kind of sneaking in a game, maybe two in there, and you're like, they've made games again. Like I can't remember whatever the last Konami game was. Mind you, it's something small, but makes me think that they're gearing up, ready for E3, which we talked about last week, them coming back and them saying that they're participating in it. So I wonder if they're just going to start slowly sneaking out these little games to people.
Hopefully so. I mean, they showed Turtles Shredder's Revenge or whatever again. I was happy to watch that trailer once more. I can't wait for that. I really can't wait. Very keen.
Yeah. That looks super authentic.
Hell yeah.
It does look like they've kind of stuck to the old old art styles, like a more of a faithful bringing back for the masses than a total rebuild and remake. I didn't manage to catch that myself, so yeah, I might check it out if there's a couple of things that you think maybe of interest to me. The other kind of newsy bit was Jeff Keighley did a show. It's called the Core Games. Did I message you guys saying what it was called?
Yeah, Core Games.
The Core Games Showcase, and it's like, right, what is this? It turns out that it's basically Epic having their own kind of Roblox or Dreams or something like that, where it's like the Unreal Engine's being used to make experiences. Apparently over 20,000 are available free of charge, all built in the Unreal Engine, and kind of it seems geared very much towards letting creators start to explore game development, which is great. You know, how do you use these tools? How do you build in Unreal? And it's kind of there just for everybody to access, provide feedback on, and hopefully start to garner a bit of a community around it. It's interesting the way that this seems to be becoming a bigger thing. Chunt, I know we were joking in the week about how is Roblox worth so much money when it's so janky and terrible, but it's like it does offer that creation suite, and it's aimed at younger children. So that even from that age, like they're getting into creating their own levels of stuff, and it's like, right, you know, it's kind of a step by step, and then you imagine like, oh, then someone can build something in Dreams, and some of the stuff that I've seen built in Dreams are insane, like some of the level of detail in that, and it's like, right, but what about if you actually then progress to a real engine like Unreal? And it's like there seems to be varying levels of this stuff available now. So I don't know if either of you guys managed to catch that Core Showcase or even look at a trailer or something of it, but it seems like a positive for the industry for sure.
I skimmed through it, and I was like, this is cool. There's so many of these different options for developers now. I was kind of envious. I wish I had this like 5-10 years ago when I was going through my game design course, and I was like, man, if I had Dreams or Core Games or a lot of this stuff just available, it'd be really cool. I think there was an announcement like last week. There's actually a game being released, I'm assuming just on PlayStation soon, that was actually made in Dreams. Like someone made a game in Dreams and they're actually releasing it on the PlayStation Store. So like there's more of this stuff happening, and there's just ways for people to get games out there now, which was not as accessible as it was 5 to 10 years ago.
That's cool. But yeah, I heard about it before we jumped on.
Nothing further to add for you, Chunt? No?
Oh, look, I've done a game design course I was forced to drop out of due to life circumstances, and I've used Unreal Engine, and it's very potent, and it's surprisingly easy once you get your head around it. So I can imagine this might even be, I don't know if it's like a modified version or just a simplified interface.
So basically just it's sort of like Dreams, but basically you get given assets that you can just start creating in your game straight away. You can grab an avatar, and they already know how to run and jump and shoot, and like all that's already built into it. And then you can just kind of start creating it around whatever you want to do. They can swim, whatever you want to do.
Like you said, far out. I wish I had all that when I was doing mine. Like you had to make everything and connect all the nodes and all that kind of stuff. But it's amazing. You just imagine like you know that old adage of like that kid that has cancer or whatever and dies. That could have been the next big whatever, or could have changed the world in some regard. Like these kind of programs I really enjoy, because there's people that get involved in this that would not otherwise, because they didn't have the avenue, and they might just be like this next big game or the next big mechanic, or that's what I like to see or hope comes out of these kind of programs. So I think it's a very positive thing to do. Like, well done, good on them.
Awesome. Well, the rest of what we've got queued up then, guys, is around Sony, and there's some structure to this part, obviously, of the show. So based on the showcase stuff, like as a nice little segue, as that's Epic owned, it turns out that Sony are installing some more monies inside of Epic. I don't remember off the top of my head the number. Dan, I don't know if you do. Is it they're up to around 500 million?
200 million.
200. An additional 200, bringing their total to
additional.
Yeah. So an
Yeah.
additional 200 million
Last year
investment.
they put in 250. This year they put 200. And for just for considering how fast Epic are growing, when they put in 250 million last year, it was only worth 1.4% stake in the company. I think their valuation has gone up even more in a longer period of time. So yeah, we're talking very, very small stake in Epic, but I think they're just trying to find a way to get their games back when they eventually put them to PC, and at least they get a little bit of that money back.
Yeah, that's true. Because a lot of them do seem to be going to the Epic store. And on that front as well, Aloy is coming to Fortnite, which is Epic owned. She's having her own little tournament on the PlayStation platform, the Aloy Cup or whatever they're calling it. I just think this it's so funny, like just the way that these big characters are now, like Fortnite has become like the legit Smash Brothers for the whole games industry. It's like I can run around on my Switch or on my Xbox just like as Kratos at the minute, and I'm not falling into the Aloy trap. I've not been playing this season. I said that to you guys the other day. I burnt myself out on Fortnite trying to get Baby Yoda, or Grogu as my spoilers, as my little like backpack piece, and I was like, yeah, this is it. I'm done. I have Grogu. Don't need anything else. I have Master Chief and Grogu. That's fine by me for my Fortnite investment. So that's kind of a cool like piece of news to come out of Sony camp. It probably is the only bit of cool news to come out of the Sony camp, which is why I started there. Dan, yeah, it is. There's nothing else good happening over there. Don't let's not try and pretend that there is. I will let you kind of take the reins, Dan, just to talk us through Jason Schreier's article. I have looked at it myself, and I have listened to the interview he did with MinMax and kind of have my thoughts, but I think you're best place to start us on this because I think there's a bit more nuance to it than the headlines of Big Bad Sony is bad. So yeah,
there is, and I think a lot of that came out of the article is also there's enough in the article that whatever agenda you want to bring to the discussion, there's evidence there for it, no matter what side you're falling on. But basically, it was almost a week ago now, Jason Schreier from Bloomberg, previously Kotaku, released an article talking about this small group, the Visual Arts Service Group, that was part of Sony, and they were wanting to. This was that studio that everybody heard that was down in San Diego. They didn't know what they were working on, what the reason was. And it turned out basically they were working on a remaster of The Last of Us. Everyone thought it was an Uncharted game. Turned out that was actually being looked into by Sony Bend, who made Days Gone, who also had pitched at Days Gone 2, which Herman Hulse said no to when he came aboard. But there's a lot to this story, and I don't know where you guys really want to start with it, because Last of Us is the big thing, but there's this idea that now the reason why Schreier wrote the article mainly was that there's a lot of people talking about how, because Naughty Dog is kind of their golden goose at Sony, that everyone seems to feel like they're getting shortchanged and like just being moved over to Naughty Dog to be their support. He mentioned in the article that Sony Bend currently are supporting them in making some multiplayer game that Naughty Dog is working on. This visual arts service group basically got overrun by Naughty Dog employees, which makes sense because right now all the developers and designers that normally work at Naughty Dog and would be working on a game currently aren't, because they're preparing for their next game. So all these people have been moved on over to this Last of Us remake to give them something to do. But therefore, this visual arts service group who wanted to start creating their own games and taking the lead, because they've usually been used with Insomniac, Naughty Dog, all the Sony studios as like a support studio, whereas now they've kind of got overrun, and a lot of those people have left. A lot of them have gone to Xbox, which doesn't mention in the article, but a lot of them have gone that way. Something to note that there were Naughty Dog people that were part of that group that worked on The Last of Us initially, but it's just that overwhelmingly more and more Naughty Dog people came on, and they kind of started to lose grip that they weren't actually leading a new game anymore. So there's a lot in there. I don't know what you want to unpack first. Jamie, you said you have some thoughts. Why don't you go first?
I mean, in terms of what Naughty Dog mean to Sony, I get all of that, but I agree with the ulterior. Like you see, you can read whatever you want into it, but I think my agreement with it would be that I get that they're like the crown jewel, but I also think if other teams and other areas of the business are showing like desire to build and work on something, they should be supported to do that. The whole stuff around, sorry, I can't remember the name of the arm, the effects studio, basically, VFX or whatever they're called. They
Visual Arts Service Group.
Visual Arts Services, yeah. They seem to have done the groundwork to go, look, we're capable of building something. You know, they've been told, hey, yeah, you can go build something, and then have it stripped away, and then they just end up, you know, stuck doing what they were doing beforehand. And it's like, I just see corporate chivalry going on there. Do you know what I mean? It's just like they're going, oh, we'll entertain you to keep you quiet, but then you're just going to go do what we want you to do anyway. And I don't like that type of narrative coming out of a business, full stop. Like it irks me like quite a lot, to be perfectly honest. But yeah, with the Naughty Dog stuff, I don't really have any other thoughts other than don't remake The Last of Us. I think that's daft. Like it's a silly waste of resources. And that can start, you know, that'll lead me onto a tangent about how the whole, you know, they shut down Days Gone, they shut down loads of other stuff, and it's like in favor of what? In favor of remaking a game that came out friggin' 7 years ago that's already been remastered once. It's nonsensical. It's like nobody can turn around and go, why is there a reason for this? You know, Schreier said in his interview with Minmax when asked about it, is it to do with, you know, reskinning the characters to fit in line with the HBO show or something like that? And he's like, no, like it's more like, oh, the tech they used in Last of Us 2, they want to bring the first game up to that standard. But it's like, why? Like, if we're constantly rebuilding experiences we've already had just to meet new standards of technology, we're going to go into a never-ending cycle of just remaking remakes. And it's like, it's just remaking a remake is textbook PlayStation. They've come full circle. They were kind of not shat on because a lot of them wound up being good, but they've been known to be, oh, Sony just re-releases games and remasters games last generation. A lot of them were needed, like Shadow of the Colossus, stuff like that. They were really great games that needed a bit of an overhaul, but they've got a bit of a reputation for doing it, and now it's come back around so far that they're remaking remakes. And it's like, well, just, you know, invest in some creative talent, let people do something new. Do you know what I mean? That's kind of my 2 cents on it. Sean, I'll let you have yours.
Yeah, I don't see why you put your resources into something no one's asking for. Like literally no one is like, hey, you know what? I would really love them to remake that remaster of that game. I haven't seen that anywhere, and I do wonder what game has been sacrificed because of this. Like, what other game have they got in the works or in the planning stages or in the development phases that this took priority? It boggles the mind. None of this makes any sense, but you're right. Like, PlayStation, when they rolled into PS4, did a lot of this. They remastered a lot of the games. And I don't think a lot of them are deserved, and I don't think a lot of them were needed, but definitely some of them showed that they were definite improvements to actually reach the full potential of what the game could have been. But Last of Us Remastered is so much better than the PS3 version as it is. And you spoil the whole like artistic growth of games that you can see. Like when I go back and play the Halo series or Gears of War 1, not the one they rebuilt, so like that was a genuine like remake for Xbox One generation. There was a purpose behind that because that game put in content that was locked away on the PC version, and it gave Coalition, new to the franchise, a new studio, a reason to explore. Can they build a Gears game? And they used that as a project. It wasn't just, let's just do it. There was a reason for it, multiple reasons for it. But the original one still holds up. And people are calling for or fans, not people, just fans of Gears, are like, oh, I remake Gears 2, but they've already X enhanced it and it still looks good. Like, yeah, it doesn't look like the Ultimate Edition of Gears of War they remade, but it still holds up. It's got the X enhancements in it, and it doesn't need it. We got Gears of War 4 and 5 and Gears Pop, Gears Tactics, with all that resource that was spent building new experiences. So yeah, I know people that were diehard Last of Us fans that went, "What the fuck?" with this announcement. Like, what? Like, Naughty Dog are one of those studios where you're like, "Oh, look, whatever they make, I'll wipe my ass with it and smell it afterwards." Like, people just love that stuff, and whatever they put out, they'll eat it. But this is just a massive WTF. And even I'm like, I want to see in the boardroom what was on the walls and the planning boards that got put aside to do this. Like, is this a Neil Druckmann thing? I don't know all the story behind it, but is this a Neil Druckmann thing going, I want to put my vision equally with both games? You know, that kind of artistic wank. I don't know, but yeah, it's really dumb. That's the end of it. It's really dumb. I should have just said that.
Yeah, well, okay. So, as a massive Last of Us fan, this was
Yes.
you don't need a Last of Us remake. Like, I don't. I can already play that. Like, it's fine. It's remastered. I don't think remaking it would add anything. However, if what they're saying is true, and the idea is they're remaking the game to work with the PlayStation 5, and initially this started off as this group wanted to show that they could make a game. Herman Hulse came in and said, why is this so much more expensive than other remakes we've done, which I'm assuming they're talking about Shadow of the Colossus. It wouldn't have been Demon's Souls at that point. But, you know, they've done their remakes and whatnot. And apparently the reason is because they were already preparing it for PlayStation 5, like straight out of the bat, and they needed more people, they needed work on the engine. And I get that. And then when Naughty Dog have moved over, this was similar to when they released the remaster on the PlayStation 4, because they used that as a way for them to learn the engine going from PlayStation 3 to PlayStation 4. And I think they're using this for the same reason, like by remaking a game that they don't have to start necessarily from scratch and they can learn the engine. So on the development side, they're probably looking at this like, this actually makes things a lot easier for us. It probably will reduce crunch for them when it's the end of the game, because they already have all the systems and all the stuff in place. But it's not needed. But if they release a Last of Us remake and Last of Us Part 2 on the PlayStation 5 as a package, yeah, I'm buying it, but please don't make a Last of Us 3 if that's the case, because I just want the package together, and it can just be there, and that's mine. So in saying that, the way that this sounds like they didn't sacrifice anything, because this was that group trying to make their own game. So it wasn't something, they didn't get taken off something else. They started this, but then they've just been overtaken with it. Naughty Dog's obviously working on the multiplayer. This probably leads into the Bend conversation, because Bend is what really is all over the place. So they released Days Gone. We talked about it last week, Jamie. So it was a profitable game for them, but it was also a game that they worked on for 7 years. There was an interview this week with David Jaffe and someone Ross. I can't remember his first name. J. Ross. And he was saying, you know, when Ben first started that game, they had 45 people on it. By the time they shipped, they had 120. And he even admits in that interview, you know, they were very much akin to, you had the leaders at the top, and it was all just very, you're just working on this, working on that, working on this. By the end of Days Gone, Sony had come in with their trying to put departments in certain places and structure them up more, which a lot of the heads at the top were not used to being, because they'd been working at Ben for 20 years and they're like, oh, this is not how we do things. Hence, the two main guys left, and you know, they tried. Part of Ben is now working on well, I think it's the Last of Us Factions or whatever, but it's Naughty Dog multiplayer game. They wanted them to make an Uncharted spin-off, and it's just been confirmed, like literally, like in the last month, that now they're going ahead with a new IP rather than Days Gone. Which, as a personal thing, I've tried to get into Days Gone. I haven't really, hasn't really hooked me, and I kind of want them to make a new thing anyway. So, because Days Gone is a combination of a lot of what their other studios are doing, but not as good. Like a little bit of Horizon, a little bit of Last of Us, with okay driving mechanics. Like it didn't hit it out of the park, and I'm like, that's okay. You made a good game or an okay game, however you see it. But I'm happy for them to try another thing, and it's not like they're getting shut down, which was what I was worried about with Days Gone, because nobody really knew how it sold. And in that interview with Jeff Ross, that's his name, he even mentioned like he knows how much Days Gone sold, but Sony aren't really mentioning how much Days Gone sold, which tells me that they don't want people to see how well it did, and then people coming back and saying, well, why aren't you making a sequel to it? But it sounds like it sold enough that would quantify a second game. But I don't know what you do in a second game. Anyway, Jamie, you haven't even looked at Days Gone, I'm assuming.
The actual game.
What are your thoughts about the Sony Ben side of things?
I mean, I think they're destined to be absorbed. Personally, I think they will, whether it's Naughty Dog or somewhere else. I mean, we spoke about it years ago at this point, saying like, what were they working on? Do you know what I mean? Like, it took them an enormous amount of time to make that game, an enormous amount of time. Yeah, I think they're destined for absorption. I don't know where to, with the high profile leads leaving the team, I think it's only a matter of time. I think the writing's on the wall for them. But
they mentioned in the article that they're referred to as Naughty Dog North, like by both people at Naughty Dog and Sony Ben, because they were worried about being absorbed.
Yeah, it's going to happen. It's just a matter of time. They'll probably let this crappy PR cycle pass and then just do it to start the next one.
Yeah.
As has been their form recently, which is sad, because they're a talented developer. Just to push us along a bit, because the time's flying somehow. The next piece of Sony stuff, and Chunt, I think you brought this to our attention actually last week. The CMOS battery inside of your PlayStation 4, if it dies, your PlayStation 4 is just pretty much useless. It will not be able to connect to servers. It will not be able to pull trophy information, and therefore will not allow you really to play any video games, digital or physical. To me, I think this is mountain and molehill territory, and this is not giving any Sony credit for it because they don't deserve credit for it, but it's not as severe as some people are making out. You know, you see all the sensationalization of, oh, if your PS4 does this, you're fucked. And you are right now. But if Sony are aware of it, which they now are aware of it, I wouldn't be surprised if they've been aware of it for a long time. It's a firmware update. Do you know what I mean? They just have to fix the firmware to make sure that those things don't happen, change how the servers talk to each other, and protect people's libraries. Dan, like, you've got a launch day PlayStation 4, right? You're fortunate enough to have a PlayStation 5, but could you imagine if you didn't and you turned your PlayStation 4 on one day and just nothing worked? How would you feel in that scenario?
I'd be pretty sad. That would, especially because I don't really save things in the cloud either. So it's all just all the saves are just sitting there in the console. I don't have external hard drives or anything like that. So that it wouldn't be a happy day, not at all. Yeah, I totally forgot about that story. Sorry, John. I know you put it through. I don't know about that, but
one of many stories this week.
Chum, what are your thoughts on
like I have that fear. Like if I go to turn on my PlayStation 3 right now to go play virtual tennis, I don't know, whatever game I have on there, I'm always worried when I turn on. Like I've not turned this on in a long time. What's going to happen when I press the power button? Like, is anything going to happen if it boots up? is the menu missing? Like, I just don't know what's going to happen when I turn that thing on. So I kind of have that feeling when I think about that. But yeah, that would really suck.
Well, I recently got a PS3. It was, reset the factory. I got it received, and I was able to run the updates and update the console and start updating and installing my games on it and stuff. So it still works just fine in that regard. But man, yeah, if I was locked on a PS4 and just the way Sony's been treating their game preservation, like the PS3 store, the Vita store, the PS Classics, like all that stuff is getting moved. I mean, like, I can't even see the PS Classics on PSN now in Australia. I don't know if it was ever available here, but other places in the world can see it. But I know I've got in there. The only game I can find that's a PS Classic searchable is Warhawk, but I've just bought that physically. But anyway, yeah, if I had a PS4 and I looked at Sony and go, "Can you please fix that problem?" They would just say, "Why don't you just go buy a PS5? Because you can play PS4 games on that. Why would we waste resources on the PS4? Because we just got rid of the PS3 store and the Vita store and the PS Classic store. And no one wants to play old games. What are you talking about?" That old bullshit. But far out, man. What an oversighted design. But yeah, you're right. If they could be bothered to patch it out with a firmware update, sure, problem solved. But I don't trust them to do that. I was almost looking at some ads on Facebook Marketplace for a PS4 because I know I'm well off getting a PS5 and I have games on my PSN that are PS4 games that I haven't even touched yet. So I am weighing up my options on getting a PS4 Pro or something like that. But knowing this, I don't think I will, even though it's well in the future. Like however long these batteries are going to last, I have no idea. But just knowing that that's there, not going to bother.
Yeah, just wait and get yourself a PS5 down the line, like when they're readily available and cheaper, and all the other kind of shenanigans happen. Just per Sony stuff. The other news this week coming out was there's been a lot of talk, and we've touched on it both, in our conversations separately in the last few weeks. Sony needed to combat Game Pass and what Xbox are doing in some way, shape, or form, just to remain relevant. And it seems like the way that they're going to do that is by bringing their biggest franchises to mobile. Thoughts? How do we think they're going to do this? I think streaming makes the most sense, but by that point, you just it's basically PlayStation Now, but they just move it onto mobile, which is not available on at the minute, is it? They pulled it off mobile a while back. So how do they do this? What do you think it means? Chunt, you can start us off with this one.
Well, we don't even have PS Now here in Australia, so I have no faith in whatever plans they have in putting it to mobile. Like you've got a service that you paid how much money for Gaikai back in the day. You've done Sweet FA with it, and you've converted something into PS Now that we can actually download the games that wasn't originally there. Until people are like, "This is shit. Let us download it." Oh, okay, and that's about it. It's not the best, but I have no faith in them. In putting their games to mobile, whether it's streaming. I mean, Xbox has been doing a long beta for at least a year or two now on their xCloud by this point, or whenever they're going to release their thing. How does Sony do that? How do they duplicate that when Microsoft owns Azure and that's what's running the Xbox cloud service? That's their baby, it's their thing. Are Sony going to be like, is this the deal, the handshake deal that we saw a while ago, partnership with Sony and Microsoft? Are they going to be using Azure to do their own streaming service as well? Like, the tech is there and it's been heavily tested with Microsoft and Xbox. So the legwork's done. Like, I'm just kind of surmising ideas that could have some kind of fruition here. But yeah, look, I don't see it happening. Sony just kind of, in my opinion, just really half-assed a lot of ideas. Vita was a very good console. It was an excellent piece of hardware, and they just gave up on it for whatever reason. People still love it. People still complain complaining about it to this day that they're getting rid of it. I don't know what I'd play on it. Like the reaction time that you need on some games, like Destiny on xCloud. I know you play that for your remote play, or I've tried it on 4G on a good strong signal. I wouldn't even bother trying on like 2 bars or anything, but that it's playable, not to Jamie standards, but you can kind of chunt around in it, you know. But otherwise, I could play Minecraft Dungeon, you know, I could play point and click games, I could play Gears of War, funnily enough, that works in an absolute treat. Forza games, because that's so reactionary, it's not the best. So when you've got God of War with its combat, it's pretty, you know, reactionary. And the Spider-Man, like I couldn't imagine doing some of the flashy, like reflex kind of stuff that you need to do to fight with people. The delay on that, like I just don't trust it. Remote play, just kind of sit on that for a while. Get your PS5 remote play happening properly. You know, getting that working for a while. So, is this a rumor? Is this an actual thing that's actually happening? Like they're porting the games to, is it ports or is it a streaming? Or
No,
they don't even know.
They've actually they've hired someone to bring their franchises
the
to
idea
mobile.
is that they're going to be like new games, but just with the paint job of some type of like a property that they own. So it's like
Final Fantasy Pocket or Injustice Mobile, that kind of thing.
So
yeah, it's like here's an endless runner and you're Delta Road from Infamous. It's just a different place.
Yeah, but again, it's not something that they've confirmed. Like it's an executive level decision that they're making this hire for somebody to bring their largest franchises to mobile, and whether they go the Nintendo route and go like, you know, like Mario Run or whatever it was called, like do they do something like that, or is it more of a wait, we need to get console quality on mobile, a la what Xbox have done? It's kind of the point and the takeaway that I pull around from it. So Dan, I'll let you kind of have your say on what you think this means for them.
I think we're seeing, and Ryan talked a lot about it, I think last year, about global, they're trying to make it a global company rather than the sectioned off how they used to be. So you had Sony Japan, you had Sony America, Sony Europe, and they all kind of took care of their own area. And in 2019, when they had those executive moves and Herman Hulst came on to take care of the first parties, Shuhei got given a different job, which was definitely a demotion. Jim Ryan came on board, took over from Layden. They talked about making it this global thing, and with this mobile talk of gaming, all of the news that we're hearing about, all the movies that they're trying to make from PlayStation properties, going towards big blockbuster titles and staying with the blockbuster titles. That was mentioned in Try's article as well. I think they are trying to say, all right, we're going to have the next Ghost of Tsushima movie come out roughly around when Ghost of Tsushima 2 comes, and we're going to have it's almost back in the day when people tried to line up like these crap, like when the crappy Iron Man 2 game came out, when Iron Man came out, except they only gave them like 18 months to a year to work on it. But I don't think they're making it, this movie has to do what the game's doing or vice versa. But it's like, let's release Last of Us Part 2, and hopefully the Last of Us TV show is out within 6 months, and people like watch the show and they're like, I want to play what that is based off. Like, they're trying to work as a global company, whether it's in their pictures, television, games, whatever services they have. There was that rumor that I brought up with you guys last week, which I don't know if that's an actual thing, about, their Game Pass might not be just Game Pass, it'll be like their animation, the anime stuff, like, because they just bought Crunchyroll and all that. It'll be a service where you get your anime, possibly PlayStation Plus or PlayStation Now, with Sony pictures, entertainment, and movies and TV shows, and you can get it in a subscription or something and watch it all. And I was like, well, this doesn't do anything more for gamers. I don't know how that is meant to count
have to ask again, man, when you see a game like Last of Us 2 and the fidelity that is, and how impressive visuals it has, and how we should have played it. Like I've seen it, I've watched the playthrough, I have seen the game, I know how pretty it is. How can you go from that to the equivalent of Final Fantasy 15 Pocket? When that came out, it was like the same game, essentially, but TV stuff everywhere. And you're like, what? That's not really the same thing. Okay, no worries. Like, can you imagine walking around as her name is Ellie, like with little chibi eyes and happy arms and legs, and like, yeah, the mobile version of us too, and it's like flowers instead of planted. I don't know, I'm just making fun of it, but it's just, I don't see it, I really don't. PlayStation, like, we are the big AAA game studio maker console, you can't really big experiences, but let's keep it these small mobile ones, The really weird thing's going to happen is, so a lot of the games that have been coming out were all games that were greenlit by, like, when Sean Lane was in, right? Like, Ghost of Tsushima was greenlit, like Last of Us Part 2, even though we talked about, yes, it's a sequel to a very, very successful popular game, narratively it took a lot of risks with a property like that. So, like, on the developmental side, they're taking risks with a lot of stuff that they have. Like God of War was their rebooting, like soft rebooting this thing turned it into something that's not what God of War is to a lot of people. Development-wise, they're taking these risks, but then as a business decision, all these executives are trying to make the safest bet possible and not do any risk. And at one stage, one of those is not going to match up. And normally it's the games that fall over because of it, not the executives. We've gone back. I hate risk aversion.
Natural stopping point. No, it's you're both exactly right. I don't get it. I think they're just, as I said to Dan last week, I think I'm starting to see not just shades of Sony doing that whole resting on their laurels thing, which we reference a lot, happened going into the PlayStation 3 era. I'm just worried that PlayStation is becoming like the rest of Sony and starting to really lose its way and understanding, and that comes from mismanagement at the top. It doesn't come from the developers, it doesn't come from the people building these awesome experiences, because they're fucking quality at what they do. But when you see stuff happening like what is happening, it probably just throws even more ammunition at the wall when we hear about someone like Kojima in conversation with Microsoft. You understand why. Like, why the fuck would he want to have conversations with Sony if they're doing all this stupid shit? Whereas the opposite direct, it's like, I mean, the last topic that I had down, we don't actually have time to go into it because, this is filmed over my lunch break. The last point that I was going to make is there is a changing narrative starting to happen. And it is very much everybody is starting to be in favor of Xbox. And you're starting to see, like, I think I even saw something from Brian Altano at IGN, who, like, is vehemently PlayStation and Nintendo centric, saying that he's finding himself playing his Series X way more than he's playing his PlayStation, and what they're doing and the value that they offer gamers is just uncomparable. And you see people like Paul Tassi at Forbes like airing similar statements, and it's like these people that are invested in the industry side of video games are all starting to sing from the same hymn sheet, and it's the hymn sheet that Microsoft want them to be singing from by, like, no questions asked. But that's something that I think we'll save and dive into a little bit more next week, because I think it warrants some time, because we all sit at different kind of stages on, Chunt, you're fully invested in the Xbox ecosystem, like Dan, your ecosystem's PlayStation. I flip between everything, so it's like how we perceive that changing will be a bit more than just a kind of 2 or 3 minute throwaway topic. But yeah, as you can probably sense, Sony, stop doing weird shit. Like, we just want you to make cool video games. Stop making dumb decisions. I want to enjoy my PlayStation. I want to play awesome games on my PlayStation. I don't want to be thinking about the anti-consumer or even anti-friendly stuff you're doing with your own developers. Like, it's not a good narrative. We got to a point last year where I think we even sat, here together and said, like, getting really boring sitting and talking about negative shit. And I think the last sort of 3 or 4 weeks it's getting in that direction again, where, especially where PlayStation's concerned, it's just all bad. So hopefully they can break this cycle, start to right a few wrongs, and start to talk to us about the games again. I mean, I said to you guys like, yeah, about why they're doing this dumb shit. But then I see things like they managed to obviously seal the deal for the console exclusivity of Kenna Bridge of Spirits, and it's like I was watching stuff about that last night. And I was like, this looks magical. I cannot wait to play that video game. And it's like that will be on PlayStation. It's like I want to have that kind of like narrative around PlayStation, not the one that we've been having for the last sort of 3-4 weeks now. But we'll leave it there. Coming up on the hour. So thank you boys for joining me. We're all here together this week. We should all be here again together next week, barring any shenanigans. And we will see you then. This has been episode 50 something. Dan is over there on the left. Chunt is always the man in the middle. I've been Jamie and I've hosted your episode this week, and see you next. Stop waving that hand, fucking wash it. Throw back.